Soul Blade is the first in the Soul series of games and uses a similar engine to Tekken, just instead of using your fists, you use weapons. The game was actually made by Namco as well, so it comes from a developer you can trust. If Soul sounds familiar, that's because it was later turned into Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast. Now before we dive into this, we need to get one thing clear. Soul Blade is a very good PlayStation 1 game, and if you're looking to breathe some new life into your console, this is a great place to start. Soul Blade is a 1v1 fighter for the PlayStation and it holds up very well. It's not very expensive and most would consider it a hidden gem, mainly because it's still playable after all this time. The game is broken up into two main modes. Arcade mode for standard 1v1 action and Edge Master mode, where you travel across the world acquiring weapons and playing through each character's narrative. In the arcade mode, you are given a handful of fighters to pick from, all with different fighting styles, weapons, and individual dialogues, which is actually quite impressive considering this is a PlayStation 1 game. As you might expect, the goal of this mode is to make it to the end and beat the boss and unlock the ending for each character. The graphics are fairly good with plenty of unique stage designs and excellent use of colour and detailed characters and animation samples. The gameplay is also spot on with responsive buttons, lengthy movesets and a different weight set for each fighter. The music is fairly good with some standout tracks and the option to switch between both arcade and original music for the game, which is a really nice feature. You can even break the opponent's weapon, which adds a new layer of gameplay. I actually really like this idea, and it means players with a bigger weapon can't just sit in the corner and hide. I do think that the commentator could sound a bit more excited and that the outside of the ring could use maybe even a gradient of colour, but overall these are just nitpicks. The character design is really well done and you can create some excellent strategies and even juggle fighters if you learn the appropriate timings. There's a surprising amount of depth to this game and the little touches really help keep the experience together. The Edge Master mode acts as the game's campaign mode and it actually works really well. You travel around the world taking on challenges and following each character's story. You take on one fight at a time and after completion you unlock the next chapter of the story. By doing this, you unlock new weapons that can be transferred into the other modes and even the multiplayer, which is a really nice touch. Sometimes you'll be required to only use a specific moveset or only use attacks at certain times, which really helps keep the gameplay fresh. This also makes you lightning fast at performing combinations and throws, which can really benefit in the multiplayer against friends and family. I find that sometimes the challenge can be a little bit excessive and the main story could have had a little more packed in, but you've got to remember this is a PlayStation 1 game and they only had so much memory to play with. In the arcade mode, I find that Cervantes and the final boss are a little bit unbalanced compared to the rest of the fighters. The ending for each character is properly animated and serves as an excellent incentive to keep playing, even if you didn't enjoy the character you fought as. Overall, Soul Blade is a great fighter for the PlayStation 1 and is a must if you love fighting games for the system. It introduces many of the staple characters in the franchise that we know today. It plays well, it looks great, and it's genuinely a lot of fun to play. This game sits in the same league as Tekken 2 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and without a doubt is a AAA fighting game. If you're interested in this game, it won't cost a ton to pick up as it's not rare and can be found bundled with other Namco games usually at a cost-effective price, so it's definitely worth a look even if you're only passing. I'd like to thank all of the lovely people on screen now for their input in the creation of this video, because without them it really wouldn't have been possible.